All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show the best ways to open up new data in Excel. Now I could very easily just kind of, as we did before, double click here, open it up and read all the information about the data and then look at it. That's fine. That's one way to do this. I've done that. Now I'm pretty familiar with how this information looks. I know that, for example, this data, absolutely, I can't use it in the way it is currently. It has a separation value. You'll see here that there are these colons or commas. Okay. So this is an indicator to a spreadsheet program, actually, that these are separate pieces of information split up. So I'm gonna import this in a different way to allow Excel to transform it for me so that I can use it. So I'm going to come on over to data, and I am going to do my classic ribbon. All right. So I'm going to get and transform data from nope. It's not going to allow me to do it here. So I'm actually going to have to use the desktop version. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my desktop version of Excel. I'm going to just do a new workbook for now. All right. So this may look slightly different because, again, I'm using a Mac. All right. I'm going to rename this worksheet. This one is going to be my Freedom Index. Okay. I'm going to add another sheet down here, and this is going to be my ACS 2020 Berkshire County data. All right, so I'm going to import both of these data sets that we've seen here. Okay, this is the first one. It's from the Freedom of Index website, or Reporters Without Borders. It is the Freedom Index. And this is global. So this is really just for the purposes of demonstration. And then the second one that we're using here is the census-based data that we downloaded from the site for specifically Berkshire County, Massachusetts. Okay, so I'm going to head over to data. And one of the great things about Excel is I have this power to import information here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to click on this little down icon, and it's going to give me the option to get data from a variety of sources. Okay, so I'm going to get data. I'm going to use PowerQuery. It's going to ask me what type of data source do I want. I got this pop-up right here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually jump out of this real quick. I want to go back and make sure I remember what it's saved in. So this is saved as a CSV. All right. So go ahead and do this again. I pick on that down chevron, and I'm going to use the PowerQuery option here. I could also use, the PowerQuery is the new sort of one. And this basically gives me this pop-up, and it gives me all my potential options. Okay. So I am importing data from a text or CSV file. Once I click on this, it gives me a pop-up and it asks me to browse. It's only going to allow me to select data that is properly saved. So let's see, downloads. Here's my CSV. Okay, I'll come find my CSV. I've selected it, and I'm going to click on next. So what Excel is going to do is going to look at this information. Now, this looks entirely different than what we saw in the online version. Again, there's different functionality. I know I've called this out at various times throughout the semester between Office 365 and using Excel in a browser online versus using the desktop application. So I am using the desktop application. That's where you're going to need to operate for this, either on your own machine or come into the lab and use the desktop. Okay. So Excel is always going to be helpful to me and try and identify the way in which information is split up. So it did it. It identified the delimitator, which a CSV is a file that stores information with a delimitator in a structured format so that it can be then imported like this into a spreadsheet program. Okay. And how did it do this? It did this based on the first 200 rows, maybe I want it to be more robust. I want to say based on the entire data set. Okay, and then it allows me to scroll down here through this entire data set. So I've got the ISO code for each country. So like NOR is Norway. Here's their freedom index score, rank. They're the best, in the world, the most freedom. Ironically enough, we're actually pretty far down the list, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so now I can kind of look through this data and everything looks kind of good. All right. So I'm going to come through here. You'll also see these little numbers up at the top. It says ABC here, whereas here it says 1, 2, 3. Well, this is different types of data. So this is text data versus number data. And the way in which Excel treats things and what is available to you in Excel is dependent on how your data is structured. Okay. So I could click on load at this point and just load it right up, or I could click on transform and have some additional options. For the purposes of this exercise, I'm going to click on transform because I already know that I want to make some changes. Okay, so I click transform. What this is going to do now is I am going to be able to adjust pieces of my data here. Okay, so really the only adjustment I want to make at the moment is I want to come in here and I saw a date that was a number and I want to change it to a date. Okay. So year is in here as a number. I guess it's all the same number, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and say close and load. All right. Boom. Now my information is all here for me. So to start, I'm going to click back over on home and you'll see we've got our bar up here. I can do all of my formatting things if I wanted to. I could change things around, at the document level, for example. I have the option to do things like that here. So if I want to make visual edits, stuff like that, I still have all of that. Okay. So I can, because this has been imported, and you'll see that this data is now structured as a table. Okay, if I click on table, I can come over here and I can edit my table properties. I can say make the first column banded in a different color. I can come over here and I can change my table name. I'm actually going to call this, I'm going to get rid of this one since I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to rename this one Freedom, Index 2023. Okay. So you see this summarize with pivot table? I'm going to click on that. By clicking on that, it automatically selects the entire table range. Okay. So I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to make sure it got all of the countries. It did. Scroll over here. All right. Looks good. Okay. So it's going to ask me, do I want to place it here in a new worksheet? I'm going to do the new worksheet. Okay. I'm going to click OK. All right. So this is my Freedom Index pivot. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get the country name in here. So I'll do country in English. If I was interested in seeing it in a different language, I could, do whatever language I wanted. Okay. All right, but I'm going to do English. I want to know everyone's rank. Okay. So what was your score? What was your rank? All right. And let's see. Now this is a good time also to make sure I've gone back to the data a little bit, and maybe I will go ahead over to the methodology section to understand what I'm looking at. Okay, so let's see. Press freedom on the map. How did they define their criteria? What questions did they ask? Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to the beginning here. There it goes. Okay. All right. So their global score. I really want some more information. I want them to provide me with the meta information about this, because they give us so much information. All right, let's click on the United States. Okay. So Press Freedom Index, we were ranked 45th out of all of the countries in the world. So below quite a few. All right. So say I wanted to really quickly filter and find out where we are. So one way I can do this is I can come on over here and I can click on this down chevron and I can say, let's do this descending. No, it's going to switch me, as you see here, based on Z to A to Z, descending, ascending. Okay. Because I do have some values in here, I've given the rank. I can say, actually do it by rank, do ascending, descending by rank. So I could see the lowest ranked country versus the highest ranked country. Okay, that could be one. All right.